Hey everybody, Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today, a comic book haul. A group of friends and I went to a show in Old Bridge, New Jersey this past weekend. A really small show, maybe like 15 vendors total, with the intention of really just digging through the dollar bins, just trying to fill in some runs and find some hidden gems. We did end up accomplishing that, but also found a handful of other key books as well. So without further ado, let's take you over to the table. I'll show you what I got. Okay, I didn't really order these guys in any way, so I'm just going to start bringing stuff across the table and showing you what I got. First up here, we've got Twisted Tales #1 from Pacific Comics. I grabbed this one it was actually $1, not $3. I grabbed this one for the Richard Corbin cover. I'm actually not a huge Richard Corbin fan. Like, I respect the talent, but I think his anatomy looks a little strange for my tastes. But I do like this cover, and I like horror comics, so I grabbed that one. Next up, we got Saga of the Swamp Thing, or the original Swamp Thing Saga #1. So what this is this is from 1977. This is the first reprinting of Swamp Thing 1 and 2 by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. They made 2 of these. I already have the second issue, which collects 3 and 4. So now I brought this one home. So now I have everything. I do have Swamp Things 1 through 10, like the actual issues. I've got 2 copies of #1 actually, and one of them is signed by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. That's one of my most valued possessions. One of the ones I love the most. This is not the actual Shock Suspense Stories #6. That's way out of my price range, and it would be not loose. It would be bagged and boarded if it was. This is a reprint. This is the EC Classics reprint. For you could tell because it's got the dollar price mark. But this reprints that issue exactly. It's all the same stories. So another good pickup for $1. This one wasn't $1, a little bit more, but I love Dave Stevens, so I'm collecting Dave Stevens covers whenever I find them. This one is obviously amazing, King Kong 1. I didn't actually realize that this is a comic written and drawn by Don Simpson as well, so I like Don Simpson. I haven't gotten too deep into his work in the past, but I do recognize him as a great cartoonist, so I'm actually going to read this one and see how it is. Next up, really random Action Comics issue, Action Comics 584. I don't know if this is John Byrne's first Action Comics. I know he was writing Superman concurrently. This leads into his Superman #1. The reason I picked this up was, it was $1, and I love covers in which Superman is being a jerk, and he's doing something that's very unsupermanly. So him here choking Donna Troy and having ripped off Cyborg's arm while being a real heel. This spoke to me, so had to have it. Another really random one, The One #6. I'm a huge Rick Veitch fan. I think he's one of the best cartoonists in comics history. And I'm slowly putting together a run of this. I've gotten 3 issues, all out of dollar bins, and I plan to find the other 3 in dollar bins as well. Another one that was just a $1 pickup. I love Swamp Thing, as you may have guessed from before when I talked about it. This is from the most recent Swamp Thing series. I just grabbed it because this is a Brian Bolland cover. This is a variant cover that I don't have, and I love Brian Bolland as well, so had to have that. All right, something a little cheesecakey. Spoof Comics Presents #2, Bat Babe. I've got the Spoof Comics Presents #1, which is Spider Femme. This is basically just cheesecake art of rip-off comic characters. You guess which one this one's ripping off. But yeah, Adam Hughes cover also helps. Great pinup artist. Okay, next up was a book that I was happy to find, but also I was cursing when I found it. It's 8 Ball 22. It's a hard book to find, by Dan Clowes. This is something that I had been looking for because I really wanted it, and I could not find it anywhere. Even eBay had, it was very scarce on there, and when it would pop up, it would be really expensive. I ended up settling for the trade paperback of it, which is half size, and displays it like this, which is still really good. And Dan Clowes doesn't do anything unless he wants to, so it's not like this is not approved by the creator or anything. But I did want the original format, and I found it at this show for like $8, and I got it for even cheaper than that, because I got it in a bundle with other stuff. So if I had just waited literally a month, I would have found it in the format that I initially wanted. But either way, glad to have it now. All right, another Rick Veitch one. This is another one that I had been looking for a while, but it doesn't pop up a lot in the wild. I found this the same stand that I found that 8-ball. This is Heartburst, a Marvel graphic novel. Rick Veitch is, I mean, again, if you're not familiar with the work of Rick Veitch, please go out and check out his stuff. He is an incredible cartoonist. He also writes some of his own stories. This is an original story, even though it's a Marvel graphic novel. This is fully a Rick Veitch story. He wrote it and he did the artwork for it. And I read it last night, and it's really, really solid. It's super good. So highly recommend this one. Found this one for like $5. Next up, some Madman. So I recently, I've been having a lot of good luck with Madman comics and dollar bins. I just found pretty much the entire run of the first like ongoing Madman series in my local comic shop's dollar bins. Now this one I found the second issue of G-Men from Hell, which I have issues 3 and 4. Now I need to just find number 1. This is a really cool like mini comic, Madman Adventures, from 1986 by Kitchen Sink Press. So this was really neat. And this is actually issues 1 and 2 of Madman Adventures, the 3-issue series by Tundra. This is not the first 3-issue miniseries by Tundra. It's the second one. I have the first one, so now I just have to find issue 3 of this second one, and I'll have that collection. Super random book here, Nosferatu by Philippe Droulet. I just think Droulet is an incredible artist, so I never knew this book existed. So I'm really happy to be able to flip through this one. This is one of those books where it's like, this is why you dig in dollar bins, because it's like, when did this get made? What is this? I would have never sought this out on my own. I'm so glad to have found it. Coverless comic. I like a coverless comic once in a while if the splash page is really cool. I like this one of the Hulk. This is not that impressive of a book. I think it's, what is it? Hulk Annual number 13. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have picked up this book with a cover, honestly. It's a book that I would have ignored, but I kind of like this splash page, so I like the way it looks. Santa with a gun in his mouth. What else is there to say? Mystery Incorporated. This is actually 1963 number 1. This is a collaboration between Alan Moore and Rick Veitch. There's that name again. There are 6 issues in this series, in the 1963 series. This is the first one I've gotten, so I'll be looking for 2 through 6 in the future. Some underground work and some indie stuff. Yummy Fur number 1 by Chester Brown. I actually have some regrets with this one because I found this in a dollar bin, and in that same bin was Yummy Fur 2, 3, 4, 5, like, and so on. But I had never read any of Chester Brown's stuff before. I had never read a Yummy Fur, so I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. So I just bought the number 1, and I read it, and I really like it, and I regret not getting just the full run that I saw in that bin. So, not bad for $1. This is the first full-size Yummy Fur comic. There were some mini comics before this, but really cool underground art comic. Some Mobius comics. Mobius comics from Caliber. This is actually a sequel to the Airtight Garage, which I found all of these in the same dollar bin. The Airtight Garage series, this is the complete set. I was really, really happy to find this. These are very hard books to find. I think a recent sale on eBay was like over $100 for just these 4 books, and I found them for $2 collectively because it was 50 cents each. So Really, really great find. I should probably bag and board them as soon as possible. Oops, sorry, I hit the camera there. But yeah, I should probably bag and board these guys as soon as possible, after I read them, of course. But if you don't know Mobius's artwork, by the way, like, get on that. He's absolutely incredible. Alright, so some other cool stuff. This is a trade paperback called The Mutants by Bernie Wrightson. I have to look more into, like, the history of this, because I'm not sure, what the deal is. But this is essentially just a collection of early Bernie Wrightson stories from, like, the late 60s, early 70s. And it's, like, showing a progression of his work in that time period. And, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, Bernie Wrightson's incredible. He's one of my favorite artists. One of my favorite comic artists. So I had to have this when I saw it. There's a really cool portfolio in the back of some of his stuff, and God, guy was an absolute magician with a pencil. Look at that stuff. Whew. Next up is Taboo. Taboo is a magazine series from the 80s that is put together by Stephen Bissette, who is an incredible artist. This Taboo number 2 is the first chapter in Alan Moore's From Hell, which appears in the back here. So if you're familiar with the From Hell comic book, this is the magazine where it first was serialized, the first handful of chapters from it. There's also a bunch of other stories in here as well from incredible artists. You could usually find some work by Steve Bissette here. You could find some work by Mike Hoffman, who I really like. On the inside front cover here, you actually have, this is art by Clive Barker, who made Hellraiser. This is apparently from a children's book that he never wrote. I think children all over the world can be thankful for that, because my goodness. So I love treasury size comics, and this is one you don't really see too often. This is Spider-Man versus Hulk at the Winter Olympics. This is not how you ski. They're not doing it right. Somebody will probably correct them, I'm sure. But I wasn't going to buy this one. But every time I kept telling the seller, like, nah, I don't really need it. He just kept lowering the price, lower and lower and lower, until he got to $10. And I was like, well, for $10, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, of course I'm going to take it for $10. But it was, I don't know. I really was trying to not come home with it. And the seller was very adamant that I did. So, really great price for it. I am slowly but surely putting together a Fantastic Four Silver Age run. I'm not going to be able to ever get like a Fantastic Four number 1 or a 4 or a 5. But I am trying to get issues 10 through 100. And I've got about half of them. So I added 2 more to my collection. This is issues 56 and 59. This is the second appearance of Claw, and this one I believe Dr. Doom appears in it, which anything that has Dr. Doom in it, I want to have. So great covers as well. This one in particular, the Doomsday cover, really strong. Jack Kirby at his absolute peak with these comics. And finally, what I consider to be the biggest score of the show. This is a book that I never, ever see in the wild. It's a book that I never really thought that I'd ever actually be able to obtain. It's Funny Book number 1. This is a legendary underground comic featuring work by Larry Wells and Gilbert Shelton. This is the first appearance of Cherry Pop-Tart. Which, if you don't know the character Cherry Pop-Tart, don't Google her at work. Wait until you get home, or just use your phone. Yeah, great underground character, great underground comic. Larry Wells is a really great cartoonist, and this is a book you just don't see ever. So when I found this, I had to bring it home, and I'm really happy to have this one in my collection. So there you go, a true mix of dollar books and some higher value keys. Let me know what your favorites from that stack were. I am really happy with all of the Rick Veitch stuff that I was able to find, and that Cherry Pop-Tart was just an unbelievable score, so I'm really happy about that. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.